The rain poured heavily on the darkened streets of the city as the sirens blared in the distance. In a high-security juvenile detention center, a 12-year-old boy sat quietly in his cold, dimly lit cell. His name was Aiden. His hands were small but strong, his eyes filled with something far beyond his years, a burning rage and an unshakable determination. Aiden wasn't like the other kids in this place. They were here for theft, fights, and reckless mistakes. But Aiden was different. He was here because he had tried to kill the man who had murdered his older brother, Ethan. But he had failed. The police had caught him before he could pull the trigger, and now he was locked away in a place that treated kids like animals. But this wasn't where he belonged. He had unfinished business. The night of Ethan's murder haunted Aiden every single day. He had been just a few feet away when it happened, watching helplessly from the shadows as a man named Victor Kane had taken his brother's life. Victor was a ruthless criminal who had wronged too many people, but he had never paid for it. The law had failed Ethan. The police had no evidence, no witnesses willing to speak out. Aiden had tried to be the witness. He had told them everything, but they hadn't listened, so he had taken justice into his own hands, and now, locked away behind bars, he was powerless. Or at least, that's what they thought. Aiden had been planning his escape for months. Every guard shift, every security camera, every moment when someone looked the other way, he had memorized it all. He had sharpened the edge of a metal spoon into something that could work as a tool or a weapon if needed. He had studied the other inmates, knowing who to avoid and who could be manipulated. Then, one night, the opportunity arrived. A sudden power outage sent the prison into chaos. It was a freak accident. A lightning strike had knocked out the main power grid. Alarms wailed, and guards scrambled to maintain control as prisoners shouted in their cells. Aiden didn't waste a second. He slipped out of his cot, pulled the loosened panel from under his bed where he had been hiding his escape tool, and got to work. He had practiced this moment in his mind 100 times. He picked the lock carefully, pushing the metal into place. A click. The door creaked open. His heart pounded, but he stayed calm. He moved through the darkened halls, using the shadows to his advantage, slipping past distracted guards. The sound of shouts and running footsteps masked his movements. Within minutes, he was out in the storm, the cold rain hitting his skin as he sprinted away from the prison. He didn't look back. Now he had one mission: find Victor Kane. Aiden knew exactly where to go. Before he had been caught, he had done his research. He had memorized every detail about Victor's life, his hideouts, his connections. Victor wasn't just a murderer. He was a man protected by crime, by power, by fear. But Aiden didn't care. Fear had no place in him anymore. He moved through the city carefully, avoiding the streets where the police might be searching for him. He had stolen a hoodie from a clothesline, covering his face as he walked. He hadn't eaten in hours, but hunger didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the plan. He made his way to a small underground fight club, a place where criminals and lowlifes gathered. Victor's men were always seen here, and if they were here, Victor wouldn't be far. Aiden slipped inside, keeping his hood low. The stench of sweat and blood filled the air. Drunken laughter, shouting, the sound of fists hitting flesh. It was all noise to him. He focused only on his target. Then he saw him. One of Victor's men, a bald man with a jagged scar running down his cheek. Aiden had seen him before, standing beside Victor the night Ethan had died. The man was drinking, laughing, completely unaware that death was approaching. Aiden didn't hesitate. He moved quickly, slipping through the crowd, picking up a broken bottle from the floor. In one swift motion, he drove it deep into the man's leg. A scream tore through the room as the man collapsed. Chaos erupted, people shoving and shouting, but Aiden grabbed the man's collar, pulling him close. "Where's Victor?" he hissed. The man's face twisted in pain. "Kid, who the hell?" Aiden pressed the sharp edge of the bottle against the man's throat. "Tell me, or you bleed out." The man stared at him, realization dawning in his eyes. "You're Ethan's little brother." "Where is he?" Aiden growled. The man coughed, blood staining his lips. Warehouse. South Daco. Aiden didn't wait. He let the man fall and disappeared into the night. The warehouse loomed in the darkness, its broken windows glowing from the flickering lights inside. Aiden approached silently, his breath steady. He could hear voices, Victor's men, talking, laughing, unaware that their doom was near. Aiden had no weapons, just his wits, his speed, and his rage. He climbed through a window, landing softly. Softly. Moving through the shadows, he spotted Victor at the center of the room, sitting in a chair, smoking a cigar, laughing with his men. The sight of him made Aiden's blood boil. He reached into his pocket, feeling the lighter he had stolen from the fight club. He looked at the crates stacked in the corner, flammable materials. A plan formed in his mind. He moved quickly, setting small fires around the warehouse. Within minutes, the flames roared to life. Shouts filled the air. Victor's men scrambled as smoke thickened. In the chaos, Aiden struck. He moved like a ghost, using the fire as cover, taking out the men one by one, tripping them, slamming their heads against crates, striking at their weakest points. And then, it was just him and Victor. Victor coughed, backing away as the fire surrounded them. He reached for his gun, but Aiden was faster. He kicked the weapon out of Victor's hands and tackled him to the ground. Victor stared at him in shock. You're just a kid. Aiden's eyes burned. And you're just a coward. Victor laughed, even as the flames grew higher.